Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Board of Selectmen's meeting, Town of Southampton, for May 22nd, 2018, at 6 o'clock p.m. We will start our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I do that after the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everyone. Be aware that this meeting is recorded and broadcast, hopefully tonight. We're going to start off with our agenda with welcoming a new board member.
I'm very happy to be here. Thank you very much.
If you need anything from any of these board members, just let us know. Okay?
Will do. Just give me your home address and phone number. I'm there.
I think you have that with me. All right. It has always been customary that after election, the Board of Selectmen reviews and reorganizes chair, vice chair, clerk, so on and so forth. So with that, I'm going to entertain a motion for a new chair.
Before we do that, can I just ask a question? Does anybody mind if we put this on the bottom of the agenda so that we have some consistency through some of these items that we're talking about? Would that bother anybody? Or if it does, fine, but I'm just thinking that we've got a lot going on here that people are involved with, so that's just my thought.
So are you trying to say that I gotta be in front of the bus?
No, not at all, not at all. If nobody agrees with me, then let's go.
I'm fine. I mean, if you want to put it at the end, I have no problem with it.
What do you?
I feel like we've all been a part of the agenda. I mean, all of the old business and all the things were being, other than Francine, and she's gonna be new on anything. So I guess I'm fine with it being the way it is.
I don't
But if
care
you-
one way or the other, frankly. I was just a little surprised that was even a question.
Okay.
Francine, what do you think?
Am I going to be the deciding vote already?
no,
Just opinions,
No.
just,
My feeling is I would probably leave it where it is.
Okay.
On the
up to you,
agenda.
Charlie.
All right, then we'll leave it as it is.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to nominate John Martin as chair.
Are you second?
I'll second it.
Discussion?
Yeah, lots of discussion here, lots of discussion. I don't mind truly doing it, but I don't know if I'm gonna have the time. It takes somebody who has a lot of time to interact with the town on a daily basis. So, one, if I was going to do it, I'd wanna make sure everybody here was involved with helping out and assisting, because it can't be a one-person, one-man show in this case. It's gotta be a collaborative effort. So whoever the vice chair is has to be very involved. I mean, I have no issue with not doing it and having somebody else do it that has time. So that's my thought. But I'm looking forward to conducting meetings in probably a different manner, because now with the budget the way it is, and we've got to be, I think, a lot more cognizant of what's going on in town and sticking and adhering to our budget and our processes more than we have in the past. So if I'm the chair, that's what I would do. So I don't know if that's good or bad from other people's point of view, so feel free to comment, and
Well,
My
I would
feelings
support
don't
you
get
as
hurt.
well. I mean, I would do anything to help you out. If you need anything, give me a call. I'd be glad to help in any way.
Yeah, I would too, and I agree with you about the budget. I think that part of what I think we should be doing going forward is to look at our expense and revenue reports on a regular basis, and just kind of make sure that people are sticking with it. I mean, obviously, that's a lot of Ed's job, but I just think that, the override passed, and I think that's a good thing, but I still think that we have to be very vigilant with the budget.
Yeah, very vigilant, yes.
There's a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, you're now chair.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we nominate Charlie as vice chair.
Okay, I would second that for discussion.
Charlie's in an interesting situation with this tie vote.
Mm-hmm.
Matt and I haven't yet figured out where this is going.
Yep.
And it could end up being a number of months before somebody decides. I don't mind being vice chair. I've been chair for 2 years, which is usually not the course of events here. Does anybody else want to be vice chair? Well, if not,
I'll
then
be
I'll.
willing to do it. I think, Francine, if you're willing to do it also. I mean, we have flexibility of our schedule, so in terms of supporting John, I think that's the main thing, is having people available. If he's tied up work-wise in Amherst for most of the day, I think that's what you're looking for, is you'll lead meetings, but you're looking for more support around people being able to sign things and be available, right?
That plus, I mean, I'm going to be straightforward, is Charlie's got a lot of connections that we use to get grants and we use during the process. He knows who to contact, when to contact, the legislators. So we need somebody, I think, that could bring that and continue that continuum. And that's what I would be looking for. Not that if you're not vice chair, you couldn't do that, but it gives you more of a connection point. And Jim or any of you, I suppose, could do the same thing, but that's my thought. So I don't have an issue at all with Charlie being vice chair. And if Matt wins the election, we can reorganize again if we need to. It doesn't have to be a one-time-a-year process. Or if somebody else wants to step up, Jim, you know.
With Reni's willingness to serve as vice chair, I would nominate her.
Well, we've already got a motion and a second on the floor, so we're in the discussion process. So we'd have to take a vote on it. So all in favor of Charlie being the vice chair, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
I just feel like we right now have a tie for select board, and so I'm just hesitant to assign a vice chair.
But we need one, though. you
Oh,
know.
I know. I'm just saying that someone who's, I think we haven't even finished the 10-day recount period, so that's what my hesitation is.
Okay. So for my own selfishness, I'm going to vote aye. So we'll see what happens down the road.
All right. Point of order.
Yes, sir?
We need to change chairs.
This is the part I love.
This is the best move of the whole thing. Can I keep the name? No?
You don't want it?
Yeah, you're probably right.
Okay, so you're going to have to bear with me as I get into this, and I guess.
Oh, it's easy. You just follow the numbers.
Yeah, no, this microphone. Okay, so reformation, select board assignments and liaison roles. We all.
Still have to do clerk.
It's going to be a tough job, I can tell right away. We need to have a nomination for clerk then.
I'll nominate Francine Tishman.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye, so unanimous.
Thank you. Do I get a job description with that?
Oh, do you?
That too.
You do. Okay, select board assignments and liaison roles. I believe we have a listing.
Can I speak to that? I'm wondering if we can table that. Right now, we have liaisons to department heads,
Yeah.
fire, police, and highway.
Yeah.
And we have a town administrator now who these folks report to. So I'd like to make a recommendation that we not have liaisons. I think it's dividing up alliances, and I don't think that we need them anymore now that we have a permanent town administrator. And I'd like to know if we can get a list of all the different committees, which one have voting rights at the table, and then make a decision as a committee which ones logically we should have liaisons to, when they meet, and then perhaps on June 5th, divide up the liaison assignments and keep who we have until then.
Are you making a recommendation?
I don't know if that needs a vote. I just wanted to discuss it as a committee.
Okay. Any other thoughts?
I agree with her.
Yeah, that's fine. Are we gonna, the ones that do have voting, I know Community Preservation does, and I think PQB does. So, long as we have somebody, we have representation, are they gonna continue whoever's on there now? Because we don't wanna lose that.
Yeah, we would
In the meantime.
continue,
Oh, right.
continue as is until we
Right,
reassign.
that's what I'm wondering.
Right,
that's
right, right.
Yeah. And
I just think it'd be helpful to have a list. I mean, I actually generated a list of all these committees from the web page,
Mhm.
and one's what we currently have liaisons to. But perhaps what I'll do is, also, I'm willing to do this, unless Ed or Janine is willing to do this, come up with when the committees meet, because I think I'd rather have a small number of committees that we're committed to and attend than to have, like, all of us have 6 committees and then not attend and then not have anything to report back to. So if we could just have a full list and then we can discuss, like right now, for example, Hampshire Regional, I think that we never had a liaison Hampshire Regional, but we had one in Norris, so we suggested we have one in Hampshire Regional, and then I think at the end, we were all so overcommitted, we just said, okay, we'll all just share it. I think that's dangerous.
Yep.
So I think if we have a list and when they meet, and then which ones we think we should have liaisons to, which ones are voting, then we can decide on June 5th. Be all right?
Would you mind if, I don't know if there's a community preservation meeting between. Should we leave it as is until June 5th?
Yeah, that's what I was recommending.
Okay, just
So
wanted-
stay with your own liaison assignments until then, and then it's only 2 weeks away.
Okay, that's fine.
Can,
I have no problem with
can we agree that of this list, that we're gonna take off the departments that report directly to the town administrator, so when the list comes back, we won't have fire department, we won't have highway department, we won't have police department on here? Now that we have a full-time town administrator?
That would be what I would do.
Yeah, I would.
Anybody disagree with that?
that. No, I think that's a good start, so,
So,
police would be out.
so before we send it back to Ed for a different listing, let's make sure we've got all our thoughts in. Is there anything else in there that we don't think we should need to be a liaison for? I'm not,
I have the list right now of liaisons, and it says Assessors, Board of Health, Community Preservation, that's a voting one, Conservation Commission, Finance Committee, Greenway Committee, Master Plan Implementation, Norris School, Hampshire Regional, PQB, Public Safety, Building, and COA. And then I listed the other additional ones that, I mean, obviously almoners, I don't think need a liaison, and cemetery and some of the rest of them, so, but I'd rather not decide that myself, so perhaps if I work with Ed and or Janine and come up with a list of when they meet and all the different committees, then we can decide.
we should add the Open Space Review Committee to that too.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, I didn't know, did you mention master plan implementation?
Master plan
Yeah.
implementation was on, Martin right now is liaison to
Okay.
that.
Okay.
But the ones that don't currently have liaisons is agricultural, almoners, bylaws, cemetery, cultural commission, energy, historical, housing, park, planning, recreational needs committee, registrars, water commission, and ZBA.
Okay, so those will all be added to the list. Does that sound reasonable, Ed? Get that list back to us for the June 5th meeting? Okay. Okay, next, it says appointments, Ad hoc Open Space Review Committee. Rainey, you want to jump up and give us a review of the Open Space Review Committee? Rainey and I were both board representatives on the committee that we met last Thursday.
Yep.
Do you have the minutes there in front of you?
I do.
Actually, it was the Chapter Land Review Committee, and we quickly changed it to the Open Space Review Committee.
Right, and just so you know, on the webpage, it's still listed as the chapter until Janine comes back. I did let her know that we voted to call it Open Space Review Committee. So we're going to meet again tomorrow. We develop short-term goals, develop strategies to secure funding for potential purchase of 111 Glendale Road, collect letters from the Water Department regarding the recharge areas on the land, consider relationship with the current attorney, and just so you know, Bob Cannon and attorney Amanda Zadonis Kemp came to the meeting as well and clarified some issues around funding. There was a lot of discussion around the role of land grants, particularly Kestrel. There was additional meeting on a land grant up to $400,000 that a number of us went to in Amherst. The long-range goal is to identify via the master plan and other means desirable priority lands for the town to own, proactively approach landowners to inquire about their long-term plans for the property. So anyway, it was a good first meeting. We're going to meet again tomorrow, and we have another meeting set up for after that. There was an interesting suggestion by the attorney, Amanda, there. She suggested that the town consider creating a trust for donations similar to what Easthampton has, the Piscomet Trust. And there's a webpage that Easthampton has set up for this particular trust. She thought it would be a good thing for Southampton to do. So we'll continue that discussion.
Well, can, Piscomet, is that what it?
Piscomet, yeah.
Don't ask me how to spell it.
P-A-S-C-O-M-M-U-C-K.
Ed, is that something you can look into when you get a chance, what that entails? It's a, I guess, a not-for-profit, I think they set it up as a 501c3.
Certainly.
That people can put donations any time of the year, and we can pull them out for open space purchases. So,
Sure.
okay, thanks. And I think one of the interesting things that was there, Bob Cannon came there, he's a realtor for the sellers on Glendale Road, and he said the sellers would be interested in entertaining a multi-payment plan for the land on Glendale Road. So if the town didn't have all the money up front, if we wanted to make them an offer, if you will, can we pay it over 2 years or 3 years and fund it out this way? He said the owners would be interested in listening to that, which I think is great for the town, because now we can maybe, amortize it out over 2 or 3 years, and we don't have to come up with the whole 720. So we want to look into that.
I think that one thing we'll have to look into is, we have to honor the same purchase and sale, and if
Right.
that wasn't part of the purchase and sale, there's certain things we have to look at. The other thing is, there's a number of steps that we have to take, that we have to be very mindful of a calendar about. And so, getting back to what we talked about last time, in terms of the appraisal, was there anything to report back, Ed, in terms of the appraisal?
Yes, it's actually in my town administrator's report, but I'll tell you now, since you asked, I did get a budgetary quote of $4,200.
Okay. Anything else that you wanted to add?
Well, we had 5 members of the committee that were there. You want to go over those 5?
Yep, the 2 of us plus,
Do we have to appoint these people?
yes, but I think what we're gonna do is, we had Diana Fetterman and we had Marla, 2 of
Mike,
us. And we also.
We had Barbara
and
LaFlamme.
Barbara LaFlamme. But we also identified 3 people from other committees that would like to invite. And so I invited, one of the people that, Janet Kane from Assessors, and she agreed to join. So we thought we'd have a meeting tomorrow, get a report back, approve the minutes, and then once it was established who was going to be on, then we'll come and ask to have those folks be appointed at the next meeting.
Yeah.
That be all right?
Yep, sounds good. We want all the committees involved as we go along with this, obviously. Any other thoughts on that? Okay. Designate select board members to sign warrants. In the past, it was the chair and the vice chair, I believe, or just,
It was me doing it because
Right.
you weren't in town.
right.
But now that we have new members, I think we need to reassess this and see where we want to go. I must tell you, it gets to be difficult at times when you get an email from the accountant's office or the treasurer's office saying, hey, the warrants are ready, and nobody's sitting home waiting for an email asking you to come sign them.
Is there any regularity to that happening?
Tuesdays and Wednesdays,
Every Tuesday and Wednesday?
typically.
Is there anything that you know, Ed, that would preclude any select board member, once we had authorization from the full select board to sign, or does it have to be an officer of the select board?
No, it can be any one of the 5 of you.
Okay. And we'd have to bring it to the next select board meeting to go over it anyways.
Well, usually what happens is, once you sign it, you just read it into the record.
Right, but it has to be read into the record,
Yes,
so,
but Ed takes that, what happens is the warrants are signed, they go back to Ed, and then Ed puts it on the agenda, and then they're just read into it.
okay.
Would you like a motion for that, John?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
I'll make a motion that any one member of the select board could sign the warrants.
I'll second that.
Okay, so conversation in the process would be, it would have to come back on the next select board's agenda so that we can
Read it in the record.
announce it, read it into records. Okay. Now, you want to go with any member? Everybody feel comfortable with signing warrants? Francine?
Did you want to say something, Ed? I'm just wondering if you have
Oh.
any,
The only thing about doing any one of the 5 is the office officers really should know who they
Yeah.
should contact, so.
Yeah, I was gonna say the chair, vice chair, and treasurer,
We don't have a
You don't have a treasurer.
or
How about Francine then as the
clerk,
clerk?
I'm sorry, clerk, yeah.
I can't sign, usually because
Yeah.
town clerk, so.
Yeah.
I'll nominate Francine to be, I think that it might be a little bit, it might dilute things to actually have that many of us.
Yeah.
Francine, I mean, are you willing to do that?
Yeah, I'm around the building often enough.
All right, retired, and she's put 6 years in the finance committee. I think I'd feel
Yeah.
good about that.
So make a
So we-
motion for those three?
Well, we'd have to rescind the second
No,
and the
there was no
motion.
Oh, Charlie seconded.
Charlie seconded it.
I'll rescind my motion.
I'll rescind mine.
Second, okay, so there's a new motion to,
I'll re-motion that the chair, the vice chair, and the clerk
I'll second that.
are able to sign warrants.
able to sign the warrant and then read it in the record the following meeting.
Okay. Any issues on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, unanimous. Number 6, notice is hereby given under Chapter 130 of the General Laws, Section 12, as amended, that JP Steakhouse LLC has applied for a new all-alcoholic common viculars, is that how you say that? Viculars liquor license located at 169 College Highway, Southampton, Mass. Hearing will be held by the Select Board on the first floor meeting room. Our address, May 22nd at 6:05 on the above application. So we have the application here somewhere, Ed?
Just introduce yourself.
Yes.
Hi, everybody.
Everyone yet? Applying for a liquor license, and I want to thank everyone for welcoming me to the community.
How's business been going?
Busy.
Busy?
Very busy.
Yeah.
Busy first 2 weeks, so
I know, I personally ate there, and it was very good.
thank you.
Ed, is everything in order here?
Yes, the application is in order. We have all the paperwork. It was advertised. We have an affidavit that Mr. Piskor sent out the notices to all 20 of the abutters on the certified abutters list from the assessor's office, and it was advertised in the Gazette. Everything is in order. I would predicate it on if the board makes a motion to make it conditional upon receiving a liquor liability insurance certificate. At this point in time, it doesn't make much sense for them to get it at this time and have to pay on that until it's sent along and approved by the ABCC. But I'd make it conditional on providing that when he picks up the license.
So it requires a vote by us in going to the ABBC?
First of all, the local licensing authority, which is the select
Right.
board, votes on it. Then we send all this paperwork to the ABCC, which will do their own work on it, and they will get back to us with the approval.
Okay. And then he'd have to provide his liability insurance certificate.
Right.
Okay.
Oh, and one other thing, just in case it comes up, as you know, this was a licensed premise for Opa Opa. Opa Opa has surrendered their all-alcohol license to the town so that it is available
Right.
to be reissued.
Right, it has no tie-in anymore to Opa Opa.
Correct.
Okay.
Because you cannot have more than one license or liquor license at one address.
Okay. So we hear a motion,
So moved.
a second?
Second, just to make sure we add the
With,
stipulations.
Yes.
that-
Stipulation, yeah.
mentioned.
So the motion is to approve with the stipulation that after the ABBC approves that Mr. Piskor will come in with his liability insurance certificate. Any questions, thoughts?
Are there any abutters here?
Okay,
No, there's another one.
yeah, there's another, okay, if you can come up.
Bob
well-
Coles at 181 College Highway. I'm in a butter across the field, the White House. Question whether this liquor license would apply to outdoor service or whether it's just indoor, and whether there's any intent to have entertainment outdoors, and whether that entertainment would be limited in terms of amplification to certain hours.
Do you know that question? The answer to that?
Well, Yeah.
Yeah, but I know if you, on the license side.
We will be serving alcohol in the patio. Patio service will not exceed 10 p.m. I believe our entertainment license is only granted till 10 p.m. anyways, so there will never be, and I think it does say something about noise, the noise restriction for the community.
So it's only on the rear patio.
On the rear patio, yes, nowhere else. And in the event that we do events, let's say, if we did tent event outside in the parking lot, we would obviously notify people about it, and it would probably be only during the daytime hours.
Okay. That answer your question? Okay, is there another question? Sure, come on up.
Marie Hotham, 6 Pomeroy Meadow Extension. The hours are going to be until 10, no later, once you get the liquor license?
Yeah, you have to go up to the answer to that,
Okay.
yeah.
So we will be serving alcohol to whatever is granted, obviously, but our patio hours will not exceed 10 p.m.
It's
Whatever-
1 or 2 o'clock.
I believe that
yeah.
whatever the ordinance is, yeah.
Yeah,
I think it's 1.
But I don't intend to have my restaurant being a bar at any time anyways, so we'll probably be closing it down by midnight at most
I
nights.
would say, if I'm not mistaken, the last drink has to be served by 1, but patrons have
Yeah,
till
well, I
2
don't know-
o'clock to get out, is
I
that
don't know
right?
what it is in Southampton, but in like Northampton, I believe it's 1 o'clock,
Yeah.
so.
We went through that a couple of years ago and
Right.
established a policy, but may I suggest
Yep.
that the license be issued with the stipulation that outside service ends at 10?
So you're amending your motion, and I'll amend my second, I guess.
Right, and
Move
that
I
way
think
it's
that makes
clearly
sense.
on the license.
So outside liquor sale,
Outside, don't, not beyond 10.
liquor sales up to,
Inside.
Problem?
We can do that, and the license for, I will tell you, for OPA to OPA for Monday through Saturday was 8 a.m. to 1 a.m., and for Sunday, 12 noon to 1 a.m.
okay. And this is just limiting it a little further on the patio. Is that-
Yeah, and I mean, it's no big, yeah, that's fine.
And if something came up in the future, you could always come back.
Of course, yeah,
Okay.
request or whatever.
So we're going to amend the motion in a second? Okay, any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So unanimous?
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, good luck.
Thank you, welcome.
Gotta go back and eat some steak.
Okay, up to reports, selectmen reports. Rini, you already did the open space report. Any other one?
Looks like I'm doing the East Street Bridge, so I'll wait until,
Okay.
Francine,
Rini, any other committees?
sign and pass it down, please.
No, Norris is tomorrow. Nope.
Okay. Charlie?
I'm gonna do the East Street Bridge, but I thought I'd wait until we got to that.
Okay, that's fine. Jim?
Yeah, no meetings in between last week and this week, so.
And now planning is coming up, when, Thursday?
Tomorrow night,
Tomorrow night, what time?
7 o'clock, this room.
Okay.
Actually, it's posted as upstairs because that's why I booked the open space review committee here because
Okay,
it doesn't matter. I don't care where I go, but I just want to let you know.
okay, I didn't look, I assume we've always been here, but that's
Yeah.
fine, I
Okay,
don't
so
care.
7 PM planning upstairs, open space committee down here at 7 o'clock.
And Norris School's at 6.
Norris at 6. Okay. Francine, I'm going to assume you don't have anything.
No, not yet. Thank you.
That will change quickly. There you go, Charlie. Okay, town administrator report. Ed?
Certainly. I would like to have permission to post an interview for the administrative assistant to the town administrator position, now that we know what the fiscal year 19 budget is finalized at.
Anybody have any objection to him posting within the budgetary guidelines for fiscal 19?
No, I have no problem with that.
Nope.
Okay.
Position would start July 1.
Well, by the time we post, interview, and hire, it might even be after July 1.
Okay,
Yeah.
but not before July 1.
Well, there's still money in the
Yeah,
budget.
there's still money in this
There's still money
budget,
in the,
so-
money in the budget, Francine, yeah. So if somebody does come before July 1, we're covered?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
We have received 2 applications for the custodian position. I would like permission to interview and hire to fill this part-time position vacancy.
Okay. That was properly posted and everything, right?
Yes.
Okay.
That's actually for review on our forms tonight. I noticed that. I have a question about it. Should I wait until we review the form or ask now? Because the
Yeah.
custodian is the police department, library, and
And
town hall.
correct.
But it's only one line item. Is that?
No, it's actually 3 line items.
Okay, on the form, though, it just lists one account.
Okay.
So library is in library, they're all in their own budgets,
They're all in
right?
their own
Okay.
budgets this year, yes.
Okay.
So when we get to that, you can just amend that? Make
Well,
sure.
yeah, maybe it's written, maybe I just didn't understand the way it
Okay.
was put in, but it just looked like it was one account.
So does anybody have any objections to Ed interviewing and filling the vacancy?
No objections.
No.
Okay.
And that position has been reviewed by PQB, right?
Correct.
And
Right.
funded.
Okay, and it's the same, okay. There were some difficulties the last time, but it's not going to come up this time because of the hours and everything else.
I understand the history of that, yes.
Okay, don't want any trouble.
Believe me, I walked on this like a bunch of eggshells.
Yeah.
We have received notice from Local 98 of the International Union of Operating Engineers representing the Highway Department union employees that they would like to start the bargaining process for a successor agreement to the contract which expires on June 30th, 2018. So we will have an executive session on that for the June 5th meeting. I did receive the budgetary quote if an appraisal was needed on the Glendale Road parcel, which was $4,200 from a firm that has done a couple of sets of appraisals for us in the past year and a half.
Do we need more than one?
Hmm?
Do we need another quote, or is it okay to just go with one
Well,
quote?
I mean, all we got this for was planning and budgetary purposes
Okay.
to reach out for, so. And then lastly, Town Council has responded to our request for drafting a letter concerning the right of first refusal request for the College Highway and former road parcels, that she is looking for further information from us concerning advising her on any and all evidence the town has as to each transaction of the buyer's intent, e.g. appearances, applications to local boards, testing at the property, evidencing an intent to subdivide or develop for residential or industrial commercial use. The theory of the premise of the draft letter is from what the select board had voted, is that the town was entitled to notice and a right of first refusal as the buyer in each case had the intent at the time of closing to develop the property.
So really what we have to decide is we want the town council to go ahead with this letter or not, and if there's any substance to us asking for that. And I know the last time we talked was that the reason we were thinking of is that they took out my memory, a commercial loan.
I'm gonna, excuse me, recuse
You're gonna recuse yourself?
Yeah,
Okay,
I think
that's good.
it's-
Yeah. So you just make a note in the minutes of that? Okay. So whether there was a commercial loan, and was that grounds for saying it was commercial property and they were going to develop it and take it out of chapter land? But they left it in chapter land and they signed an affidavit saying they're not going to. And when I checked with the local banker, what he told me is that you can get a commercial loan for many things, including farmland and all that. So a commercial loan doesn't indicate that it's going to be used for a commercial use. So I'm not sure what else there is that we have. So that's why it's on here to discuss. What reason would we now go back and say they didn't give us the first right of refusal? Because if they're keeping it in chapter land and they sign the affidavit, the only thing we have is we think they're going to develop it down the road, but there's no substance to that. The commercial loan is what I was kind of hinging on, and that now in my mind, that's not relevant anymore. So I know it was you and I looking at this. So.
Mhm.
So what's your thoughts?
I'm wondering whether we can talk about this in an executive session. I wonder if it would be possible to discuss what evidence there might or might not be. I don't know that. I want to continue the discussion in open session.
I have an executive session
Yeah.
the other night.
before anybody says anything,
What purpose?
you know,
This litigation piece. You have to
Francine,
identify-
do you have thoughts on this?
Well,
And-
my feeling would be, you know, I would entrust this to an attorney as opposed to us trying to sort out all the evidence and let them,
Yeah, but this is what the attorney said.
I understand.
Yeah.
Did you just say that you would entrust the decision to the attorney? I didn't hear what you said.
Yes, I would,
Okay,
I would,
just to make sure I heard you.
So let me just clarify. This is what the attorney said. So are you feeling comfortable with what the attorney said? Is that how you're saying it?
yes,
Okay,
I am.
okay.
I think it comes back in some ways to the discussion around intent, and we were told that our attorney feels that intent is shovels in the ground, and yet, you know, prior to us getting the right of first refusal in Glendale, there were meetings with the planning board. We were informed that the former property is going to be 2 houses plus 2 houses to pay for the property. Like, there's evidence, if you look at the posting of the property on College Highway, it actually advertises it as development potential, and that is the seller who's advertising that. So I think that there is evidence, and if we want to go into more detail, and I don't know if we want, you know, an open session. I mean, if you want me to gather whatever evidence, I just think that there is evidence.
I mean, and I would like to do away with this if we could, but I mean, if you're advertising as commercial property, it doesn't mean that's what you have to use it for. It has potential for commercial property, and if you take it out of chapter land, then you can use it for commercial property. But if you keep it in chapter land, it's used for agriculture. So I think it's trying to get the best deal for the seller, trying to
Yeah.
say, it's worth this if you want to develop it.
Meanwhile, the seller is signing a chapter statement saying that they're not planning on developing it and get a significant tax break to the town of Southampton.
Yep.
So then to advertise the land as such, I think is a little bit of a conflict. That's my opinion.
Yeah, but when it was advertised, nobody knew what it was going to be advertised at except the seller. But Charlie, you might as well weigh in on this.
I don't see a purpose in sending a letter because of the fact that I don't see enough information here to legitimize the fact that the town had a right of first refusal. I think that we're going down the path of grasping, trying to make assumptions, and you know, it's like commercial loans. I have a farm. If I went to do some operations where I needed more money, I'd get a commercial loan. I wouldn't get a personal loan. I don't think we have enough here to warrant sending a letter. I think we have enough here to warrant keeping an eye, but not to send a letter. And I think we're spending legal money to do something that is costing us money as the town, but it's going to bear no fruit.
Okay, that leads me to a second question that's related but not directly. Can I ask a question about what are the goals of Thursday's Select Board meeting?
What was that question again?
What are the goals of Thursday's Select Board meeting with the Public Safety Committee?
Does that tie into this, though?
It does.
Okay.
Based on the last Select Board meeting, when we had an urgent meeting and had an agenda item relative to this College Highway property, which is one of the 2 properties we're discussing, I would like to know what are the goals of Thursday night's meeting?
I can tell you my personal goals. I can't tell you what the goals of the select board is. My personal goals is trying to secure some land for a public safety complex for the town. That's been my goals for the last 10 years on this thing.
Okay, so everybody's had their thought process out loud here. So is there any motions that someone would like to make that we can act upon?
I move that withdraw the letter to the,
Can it be recognized?
Okay. Yeah. Francine or
No.
Rini?
I haven't been privy to a lot of the information, the details that perhaps some of you have been. So I'm going to defer, I think, to the majority, but I do have some concerns. There are people who have participated on the committee who have information and knowledge that if they brought forward might influence the decision that we would make tonight to go with it or to not go with it.
I gotta say, no offense, but I mean, I think we've got all the information. We have a lot of opinions out there, different lawyers that, you know, say we can do this and we can do that, but we spent a lot of money with our lawyer, and she seems to have come back consistently and said, we really don't have anything except for speculation. That's the way I'm looking at it, you know? So that's why I'm kind of staying away from the public opinion part, because I think we've discussed that a lot. Okay. So Francine, how would you like, do you want to second that motion, or do you want to leave it die?
I don't want to second it, no.
Okay, so,
Chair can second.
yeah, I'll second the motion for a little more discussion. So maybe now, if you have something,
My name is Cindy Palmer at 71 Glendale Road, and I'm just remembering, my memory of when this first topic came up about sending a letter to the sellers, the Wayne family, who had
Yeah.
3 parcels
Yeah.
that they were offering for sale, was to remind them that there was a process.
right,
They did not send out for the first right of refusal on the 2 pieces of property, as Rini just pointed out, that were offered for development, one being an actual developer who has a purchase and sale agreement on the Glendale Road property, and the other being the property up on Fulmer Road. There is certainly a lot of lack of clarity on College Highway right now. I'm unclear exactly what the intent is moving forward on that. So I heard that the point of the letter, which was supposed to go out many weeks ago, was to remind this important landowner of the responsibility. And the second thing is that we have something like 200 owners of Chapter 61 lands in this community. Some of them are perhaps a little elderly at this point. Ultimately, there's going to be decisions that will be made about what to do with their chapter lands. And I know the ad hoc committee is,
Right.
going to take that upon themselves, but
right.
we need to give important messages that there are laws and processes that happen. So I thought that was at least a good part of the intent of the letter. I think we should not be, I realize you have to be fiscally responsible, and that's important. What I heard in terms of what Mr. Gibson just said is that the attorney is looking for a little more information.
Right.
So if you could include the concept of, you need to offer these to the town as is required by the first right of refusal laws, Chapter 61, et cetera. I think that would benefit the entire town to do it the right way. That's why I'm supporting that you send a letter to the Waynes that was supposed to be sent out.
Well, I'm not seeing what the letter would accomplish at this point. I agree, the Open Space Committee needs to be proactive and reach out to all the owners.
Yeah.
But according to our attorney, and at least the way I'm reading it and looking at it, it's kind of a dead issue at this point. We can't do anything. There's no way we can legally make them sell it to us. We can remind them that they have a first right of refusal, but they're going to say, yes, okay, thank you, when I sell more land, but this is already sold. And she's looking for reasons to go back and take that transaction and turn it around, but I'm not.
Let me just ask you, John and Charlie, you voted for sending the letters out. So help me understand why you voted for that initially.
Initially, I voted for that because I thought it was a good way to send a message. However, I have been watching this get reviewed every selectmen's meeting now for the last 3 months. I believe everyone that has chapter land in town has become aware of the fact that the town's now established a committee and is actively aware of the fact that there is a concern. I see sending the letter now as costing the town more money in legal expenses for no benefit.
And I thought we had something on the commercial loan side and advertising as a commercial property, but again, I found out that that really doesn't mean anything. So those are my 2 reasons for doing it. And if there's no valid reason, I think we're wasting time. I'd like to concentrate on the Glendale Road parcel and get that land under our town ownership.
I just had one comment about the commercial loan piece.
Sure.
And Charlie will agree with me. We own 100 acres. We have one of the private mortgage lenders in the Northeast.
Yeah.
So I know when we buy a piece of land, they value it, and we have bought land that is not under chapter and not under APR. So they look at comparable land values, and they look at it, and they look at it, and they say, when we bought the Zipta piece of land, they say, what is the value of that land? And at that time, it wasn't under preservation, so they say, I forget how many house lots it was or whatever. And they look at the comparables, and they look at it. And I know in this lending market, what our mortgage lender would say as an ag lender. They would say, what are you using it for?
Right.
Our farm is a diversified farm. We argue all the time that, you know, yes, we're a dairy farm, but we're diversified. And the business from the stand is equally as important as the dairy. If I can get them to value it and the acreage that we use as the stand,
Right.
it's much greater than a dairy farm.
Right.
So I would argue that the commercial loan is a big piece of it, because if they looked at that when, no disrespect to Mr. Labrie, when he was quoted in the Gazette saying he was going to do some hay, there is no ag lender in the Northeast that would give a commercial loan for $780,000 or $400,000, or whatever it was, for hayland. Then unless he's doing hay for every farm in the Northeast, they're not going to do it. So somewhere they have to present why the value of that land, and we all know why, because it's a big piece of commercial land on Route 10 and it has great potential. And that's how it was marketed. It was not marketed to the local dairy farmer as hayland or woodland. So I think the value of that loan is important, and it does play a factor in how that value and what the mortgage came out to be.
You say the value of the loan or the type of loan?
The value of that land.
Value of the land,
No, I
yeah.
agree that a commercial loan, I mean, our loan, you know, a commercial loan, it's a business and everything. I'm just saying the value.
Yeah.
Somehow you have to justify, you know.
Well, the highest value is building it out, absolutely.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that's,
Yeah. No, there's no doubt about that.
I just want to make a statement about what was just said about, not you, Cheryl, thank you for your comments, about the comment about it's been on the agenda every single time we have a select board meeting, and I strongly feel that it's needed to be on the agenda. We have a master plan that a lot of very well-intended people from lots of different departments put together that said this is what Southampton wants. If you ask most residents in Southampton, they will say the same thing. They love the open space. That's one of the reasons they came into town, also the schools and a lot of other reasons. And so I have been unclear about some of the steps of this process with these 3 properties since it all started, and I've appreciated all the input and the citizens speaking up and saying things, and I've appreciated our discussion. I will say that I'm still unclear about 2 parts of this process, so I hope to get clarity on those 2 pieces before I celebrate any donation or anything else. But in the meantime, I just wanted to say that I have appreciated this discussion. I've appreciated all the work on the part of people that are trying to preserve open space for Southampton.
I do have a question. I mean, one of the considerations in not going forward with this was the cost of legal fees. What will it cost to issue this letter?
Just a letter?
Well,
She
I mean,
charges,
to get the, well, how to put the letter
$250.
together and, you know, with the documentation to support it.
Yeah. I'm going to say under $1,000, you know. I'm guessing because she charges, what, $250 an hour or something like that?
Under 1,000.
Yeah. It's just ongoing costs that we've had here, and we're just trying to come up with a, so we've got a motion and a second, so not to pursue this, so let's just vote on that, get it off the table and go from there. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
So
Aye.
it fails. So, going back to what town council wants, she wants to know what, let's just read it, the theory of the premise of the draft letter, why the town is entitled to notice and a right of first refusal. So what would you like us to give the town council? And let's see if we can get a consensus on that, if we
Ed
go ahead
wants
or
to
not.
say something.
Yes, sir.
If the board is going to go into specific reasons of evidence which may lead to litigation, I would suggest that you
Good
do it
point.
in executive session.
Okay, that's a good point. Okay, so let's schedule this for executive session on June 5th.
Actually, you can do it tonight because that's what the executive session is for tonight.
So it's already on the agenda? Okay.
I just wanted to make one I'm usually the one that asks if the letters have been sent. And I think, personally, I would be very disappointed that after being promised for weeks and weeks and weeks that the letters were going to be sent. I do agree, the letters weren't saying, give us an offer. The letters, my understanding of the letters was just to remind people about the process. And these folks didn't follow the process. And so I just really ask, you folks represent the town, and we've all been here for well over 3 months. We've been here since these properties went on, and we just want to do what's right and make sure that for the future, and it's not just the chapter liens, it's the APR liens, we want to make sure that everybody is on the same playing field. So if now the letters don't go, I would be very disappointed, because there have been motions that were, I mean, for weeks, I think for 2 months, if we look back at the minutes, you folks said that you were going to do what I considered exploratory letters to say, you know, why didn't you extend it to us? So, just a comment.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so we'll discuss in executive session. Anything else on your report, Ed?
Only that the next Board of Selectmen meetings are Tuesday, June 5th and June 19th. There is the special meeting with the Public Safety Building Committee on Thursday night, May 24th. And then there is a department heads meeting tomorrow, Wednesday, May 23rd at 10 a.m.
Okay.
In keeping with what John said earlier about the expense and revenue report, can we identify either the 5th or the 19th to get copies of that beforehand and just discuss where we are coming into the end of the fiscal year?
Certainly.
Okay, so the question lining up with that is, what time in the end of the month for the next month are the reports available? I'm not saying that right, but if the month ends in May 30th, are the reports available the first week of June or the second week of June? I know she has a process to, you know?
They will usually run them right after they do the payable warrants, so.
So you think June 5th would work?
I think it'll work.
Can we ask Vicki to come in for that too? I'd like to see the accountant. You?
Yeah, I just worried that, I mean, maybe Ed can just speak to, I don't know, what do you think? To ask her to come in every other Tuesday might be asking a lot. Is that something that you feel you could speak to in terms of expense and revenue, or would it be Vicki that would be the one to do that?
Well, we're only going to review them once a month.
Which is every other meeting, basically.
Right, once a month. So we'd just be asking her to come in once a month.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if that's a lot. I don't know.
Well, I think it depends on the time of the year and the fact that we only have till July 15th to close the books. I have an idea that she's probably going to be coming in a couple times for transfers anyway.
Right,
so,
right.
yeah, so I don't think it's out of the way.
So why don't we invite her for June 5th? And if you can send the reports out 3 or 4 days earlier, that'd be great.
Okay.
Are we going to do anything with the school accounting?
Yeah, we can talk about that right now. Charlie and I had kind of talked offline about the Norris School, about we don't get a good line item by line item budget from the Norris School. We get an overall budget. So can we get a line item budget from the Norris School similar to our town budget so that we know where all the money is flowing out of? It may not be an answer you have right now, but.
No, I'll find out.
Yeah, if you can, because that'll allow us to see where their spending is going. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're, you know, such a big part of the budget.
Yep. Yeah.
Virginia, you want to say something? Virginia's in the local school committee. I was thinking also about Hampshire Regional. I mean, that's the one that I want to be able to understand. And it's so confusing because if we're only getting 52% of the budget, it makes it not an accurate, I mean, not that it's not accurate, but it just makes it not clear, the total numbers.
Yeah, Virginia Ahart. In this case, I'm representing the Norris School Committee. Every meeting, we get a complete report. It doesn't look like the one you get from Vicki, but it's very clear. You can see how much has been spent. And
on each line item it shows you?
yeah, it's 5-6 pages.
Okay.
but it doesn't look like the one Vicky gives out, and I think that's why you're saying you can't,
We
don't
don't
get
see it.
one.
We don't see that,
We don't see it at all.
yeah.
Well,
That's what we could see then.
but we could, we're meeting tomorrow night, and I can ask Bobby from the business office at Hampshire Regional if she would send you one.
Can you
Yeah,
send
well,
it to-
actually, I've been the liaison. I haven't gone to all the meetings, but most of them. And Bobby does give it out, but it doesn't always put in where in the 100% of the budget on the right-hand side.
Doesn't give how much of the budget.
So that's what's confusing.
Yeah, you see the
Right.
total line item,
Yeah,
and you see what's left.
so you don't see what's spent year-to-date? Just what's left?
No, it says what the budget, no, it doesn't say what's spent. It says they had so much.
Right.
And this is left.
Right.
So you can figure.
So you have to
the
back
spend.
into it.
Right. It's not like the expense and revenue report.
It's
But
not a-
nonetheless, maybe Bobby can automatically send one to Ed.
Yeah, I'll ask.
Yeah.
I'll try to remember to ask.
Well,
Okay.
we can ask Ed, would you mind following up with Bobby?
I'll be happy to.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
So we can dedicate some time once a month to go over all
So
three?
do you get the Hampshire ones too?
That's what I was gonna say.
I'll ask about
Okay.
those, too.
You can,
Just
Hampshire
getting a
Regional does it also, it's a line
Yeah.
by line.
Yeah.
Okay,
Shows everything.
so we'll get them all? Got to pay attention to these this year for sure. Okay, update East Street Bridge Project. Charlie, that's you?
Just to recap, the last couple of years, we've been working to try to get the East Street Bridge repaired. We lobbied for some Mass Works money, and we were awarded a grant for $1 million based on what we were told by our engineering company that this would cost. Once we got the grant and we started moving forward with the engineering company, we were advised by the engineering company that it was actually $2.5 million, which means we are short $1.5 million. We have sent a letter to Secretary Ash explaining the circumstances. We don't have anything officially, but unofficially I've been told that we're probably going to be able to roll that money over into next year so we can work towards this project. Presently, we are trying to find $1.5 million to do this bridge. I met with the Mass Metropolitan Planning Board today, discussed some options on that. We have some very nice color pictures, but I think everybody knows what the bridge looks like, and I'm not going to get into that. We got the engineering report on the structural integrity of the bridge. It appears in the last 2 years it's been evaluated. It has not reached the level of critical with the state engineers. Frankly, I don't want to reach the level of critical with the state engineers, because that means we have an emergency. They place it at a double axle truck can be up to 10 tons to cross it safely, just to give you an idea. I'm still lobbying, trying to move forward with some other state monies to make this happen. It's going to be a slow process, but that's where we're at with this thing. I have no clue why the engineering company gave us a lowball number as it did, but when the same company came back to us with a proposal of 2.5, it's obvious that that's way out of the ballpark for what this town can afford to just pull out of some extra money from something. So even our Chapter 90 money wouldn't come close to that. We are looking to move forward. I talked to Ed about this, and we're going to start moving with some of our Chapter 90 money to take and try to get 75% of the engineering design done. That'll firm up the design cost. That'll firm up the design of the bridge. So it's probably going to take us another 6 months, 8 months of work on that to better get a handle on it.
I'd like to just add, I was with Charlie today at the MPO board in Springfield, and back to the classification of the bridge. It's on a scale of 1 to 10. The bridge is at a 5 currently. They have 5, 5, 5, and they don't go critical until it hits a 3. And once it goes critical at 3, then we run into problems with fire trucks going over, and it really is going to hamper our response time to some parts of town with the equipment. So
And it makes no sense to rebuild East Street until that bridge is addressed. So, because if we build a nice street and funnel everybody to that bridge, we're gonna compound our problems there.
Yep.
So, we have some lobbying that we've been doing, trying to move stuff around, and, I don't know. You asked me 6 months ago, I was happier and happy, going, yeah, we just got $1 million grant from the state, we did pretty good. Now I don't know what to say.
Can I just ask a question, if we still have the confidence in this same engineering firm who gave us one estimate at
Do
$1
I
million?
have the confidence?
Yeah.
No.
Have we contacted
Have
the
we
Attorney
contacted anyone
General?
else?
Yes.
And?
I have submitted a complaint to the Attorney General's office. I learned a couple of days ago that they didn't feel there was enough there for them to move forward.
We just lost $1 million potentially from a big ceremony, MassWorks grant, $1 million, and there's not enough there. They come back with a $2.5 million price tag.
We haven't lost $1 million at this point
We
in
just have
time.
to find another $1.5 million. Do we have assurances that we can actually give ourselves another year and that the MassWorks grant will be extended for another year so that that $1 million is still available?
All I can tell you is I've been told verbally by my contacts in Boston that they would revolve this over to another year. I asked for something in writing. That was only about a week ago. You know how Boston moves. I can't expect to see something in a week.
Can we get something in writing from the Attorney General, or is that all a verbal conversation?
That is a verbal conversation. You can get I think I copied you the emails that I sent to the AG's office.
I don't remember getting that, but anyway, I think, did we,
Francine, did I copy you on that?
did we get
the
anything
Attorney
in writing
General's
back
emails?
from the Attorney General?
No, they're
Okay.
verbal. They're very verbal.
What section of the AG's office do we,
Consumer fraud.
and we can't get it written?
We
I
can't get,
haven't asked for it in writing.
Can we get something in writing? I mean, I think that's the best way to do that, just in case it comes
How
back.
about, Ed, you are looped into the AG's office. You want to ask them for something in writing as to why?
Sure.
Well, that might better secure the funds for next year if they really understood that it was through no
it
fault
also
of our own. That it
documents
was-
that we tried to do something
Yes.
about it.
Yeah, that's just as important, yeah.
And so the 75% of the engineering plan, what engineering firm are we considering using for that purpose?
That is going to be
Bid.
We're going to issue an RFP.
You gotta do a bid for it, yeah. Yeah. And do you want to update on the East Street itself?
there's nothing to report.
No, nothing
I
new?
just want to say that it might come out as a whatever number it is. That has to do with what type of vehicle can go over it. I'm worried about the safety of children, to be honest with you. The bridge itself is not safe. If there was, I mean, structurally, vehicles can go over it and no one's going to, it's not going to fall apart because of a fire truck going over it. But right now, I don't think it's very safe in terms of any kids being around the water or the bridge or anything.
Oh, I
So
totally agree with you.
I think there's
The
other
the
considerations
railing,
that we of a
everything is-
town should have aside from what number it's given in terms of functional weight.
And Maureen, also on that, my question was, when was the last time this report was done? And they didn't have that, they're gonna get us that information. It should be done every 2 years, but they didn't have that information. So if it's 5 years old, the bridge could have gone downhill a lot since then.
Yeah.
So, well, we're waiting for that answer.
So the next steps are get something in writing relative to the Attorney General contact, and what else in terms of the,
Put the quote out to try to get the engineering work going forward. Once we get the engineering work designed to 75%, then we actually have something tangible to argue for additional funding.
okay.
So who are you working with, Ed, to get a package together for engineering work, or who will you work with?
I'll put it out myself for engineering firms
Okay.
to respond.
So any thought on a time frame?
I would like to get out in the next couple of weeks and then have the responses come back within 30 days after that.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Can we also get in writing that hopefully we can extend the $1 million grant into the next fiscal year?
You're working on that, Charlie, right? Okay. Okay, anything else on the East Street Bridge? Old business, right of first refusal, 111 Glendale Road. We're working on that on the Open Space Review Committee. Is there anything else anybody wants to add to that, or questions? And obviously, anybody that's interested, come to the meeting, 7 o'clock tomorrow, right here. We only had very few people there last week, so. Fireman Association Maxim Fire Truck, is that the old one we were selling, Ed? Or is that,
Yes.
okay, so what do you want to update us on that?
Yes, the
Did we end up selling it?
The Volunteer Fire Association would like to address the board on
Okay,
that topic.
didn't we ask you to put it out there for bid?
You have.
How you doing?
Hi, John.
Hi.
Thanks for revisiting this for us. So,
You
in
gotta
October,
introduce yourself.
oh, sure, Patrick Eline, Captain, Southampton Fire, 6 Gene Circle. So back in October, there were a list of items that were put on a list for surplus. So the select board had signed off on it for the fire chief to sell. One of those items was the 72 Maxim.
Yeah.
He waited the period of time that needed to be waited. We put in a bid as the Firefighters Association. We won the bid. We have a signed agreement. When I came back, it turned out that I understand that what the select board was going through at that time through March was the thought process is we need to scrape some money here because, of a 2.5 override. So we understood that. During that time, we did go out because at that time we assumed it was all set, and we got a buyer. When I went to retrieve the title is when we found out that you guys had then re-voted to keep it at that time. So we're kind of hoping that now that the 2.5 override had passed, we were hoping that you as a select board will to allow the October decision to be the decision that rules so that we then can go out and sell the fire truck. Now, the reason that we want to do this is the association is a group of the individuals, the firefighters and EMTs who are the volunteers in town. And what we want to do is take this money and reinvest it into the town. Our whole goal is to reinvest it into our children, into sports youth programs, to potentially have a scholarship program for our high school graduates so that they can come back if they're going into a fire science degree program to give them X amount of dollars and to do this on a regular basis. So that's what we're looking to utilize the sale of this truck for. So we're hoping that now that the 2.5 override passed, that money, whatever it may be for a bid, whatever you would get, wouldn't be significant enough to you. But for our small little association, that amount of money would be extremely significant and well-deserved, as well as, again, our whole goal is to reinvest it back into our youth and into our community.
Now, you said you had a buyer. What was the buyer willing to pay for it?
He's willing to pay $3,500 for it.
Okay.
That's a full disclosure. There's nothing for me to hide from you at all. That's what he decided he would be willing to sell it. So we did all the investigation. We've talked to this man, and so that's where we're at.
Okay. So we had a vote to put it out there for surplus and advertise it. So based on what Pat was saying here, does somebody want to make a motion that we rescind that and let the association keep it, or do we want to still go ahead?
I make a motion to rescind the original vote, go back to our October position.
Well, the October was the original. You're saying the most recent?
Well, why don't you phrase the vote?
I move that we rescind our last vote to put the fire truck out to bid and to retain it back to the ownership of the Firemen's Association.
To do with it as they please?
To do as they please.
Okay. There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it for further discussion.
Okay. What's the rest of the board think?
So you took action based on what the board had decided to do in October, and then when we were on line by line painfully going through an override budget, we were trying to utilize as much money as possible, so it changed what you had previously been working to do.
Right. Well, it was given to the fire chief as a surplus item. He was at that time able to do with what he wanted. He followed the timeline. He then sold it to the association. And then it wasn't until after the sale between the fire chief and the association that it got rescinded by your committee because he was scraping for dollars. And I get it. We totally understand, and we weren't upset about it. But knowing now that, you know, that amount of money probably isn't going to be as much as necessary, but it will mean a lot to our association. And like I said, we really want to earmark this in returning this back into our community. So that we were just hoping that you would go back to your original October thought process and make it surplus. So I don't think that anybody knew that it would give that much money, and I think that that was probably the thought process in October as well. But we did our research, and we were able to find somebody who was willing to pay that amount of money. So
Does anybody have the verbiage we voted on back in that October?
Ed does, through an email and through paper.
Did we hear that? Do you have that on you? I'm just, if we could read it, I mean, it was very clear that if they go out to bid, if nobody put a bid in on it, the way I read it, that the chief
fire
could-
chief was
the fire
free
chief-
to take and dispose of all surplus property that was not disposed of. I wrote the thing.
Yeah.
Right. So I was just gonna reread that because that was the original.
I'm sorry I don't have that in front of you, but I know that it was signed by all select board members at the time.
Would you like me to go get it?
I think the only issue was that, how did it go out to bid? Was it just a kind of a quiet bid, or was it publicly bid, like on municipal bid or somewhere like that?
I don't know what the fire chief
Yeah.
did, because I'm not the president of the association,
Yeah.
but I'm here representing it tonight
Yeah.
because our president couldn't.
I think it was just, okay, it's posted somewhere and it wasn't advertised versus going out and advertising it on
Yeah,
a site.
I know that because it was given to the fire chief as surplus to do with what you want,
Yeah.
then he could do with what
Yeah.
he wants.
No, I don't disagree,
So-
yeah, but I think that's how it went, yeah.
So can you just tell me, has this association been in place for a long period of time, and what type of activities,
Since Charlie's day. for
what
sure.
type of activities do you get
There
involved
hasn't been
with?
a lot of money over the years for our association. You know, we've done a couple pig roasts, and we've done some raffles, and those monies have gone back into various items for purchase to the fire department as well. Sometimes there's equipment that needs to be outfitted. I know there's a new brush truck, and with that new brush truck, you know, we were hoping that maybe we can get a couple pieces of equipment for that, not through the town, but through the association as well. And that's been pretty much what it's been through for the years, as well as, you know, purchasing things for the association group members as well.
So is it like a Friends of the Library, Friends of the Council, Senior Center? So it's,
Right, we have people routinely who write us letters, and every month when we have an association meeting, people ask us for $50 donations here, $100 donations here, and
Okay.
we generally grant that out to various different things. So if there's a derby of some type, or something with the Boy Scouts, and if they ask us for money, then we give them $100 of our association money. So that's really where we're at with this.
And Maureen, back quite a long time ago when I was on and Charlie was on, it was the Firemen's Association that did fundraiser and raised money for the first Jaws of Life in the area. And then we had a Jaws Cause 2 shortly thereafter. So they're great for buying equipment that the town can't get in the budget. So they've always done a lot of things in the past. It's been around for a long time.
So could I just go back to the October vote? What was the intent at that time of the proceeds of the sale of this?
Well, we weren't sure how much money we would get for it.
But for whatever amount, what
Town's
was?
intent, the
Yeah,
town's
what-
intent was anything that the fire chief was able to net for the surplus property would go back to the town general fund.
Would go to the general
So
fund?
theoretically, when the
Okay.
fire chief signed it over to the association owed the town $1, which I believe they'd never paid.
Well, actually, technically, the fire chief tried to give me $1 cash.
Is that what the issue was?
Yeah.
Okay, so we did try to pay you.
Yeah, I just think we put the chief in a tough spot, that we gave him the authorization to make the decision, and he made the decision, and then now, sometime after, we changed our mind, and it put him in a tough spot. That's why I think we should consider
Right,
it.
and like I said, we
think
totally
it really goes right
understood you
back to the
revisiting
town.
it because of the financial restraints of the town, and I get it. But
Yeah.
we're just kind of hoping now that after 2.5 override, you guys would be kind enough to rescind that decision, go back to the original October decision, and so that we can take this money and reinvest it into our community.
Okay. So,
I
Thank you.
feel comfortable going back to the October decision, because I think we made a decision and you did, or the fire department did what you did based on our decision. But I think in general, if the town buys property and for any particular department and then gets a benefit from selling it, it should go back to the town in that particular case. But in this case, I feel like you did something based on a decision that we made, and I feel obligated to go back to that decision.
Okay. Any other conversation? Okay, so we got a vote in a second, a motion in a second to rescind our motion to send it for sale for surplus equipment and to let the fire association buy it. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? There you go, Pat. Thanks for coming. Okay, new business. Notice of Charter Communications to establish and adjust the basic server tier programming, equipment, and installation rates. Public hearing in Boston, Wednesday, May 30th. Anything else on that, Ed, that you need to report on, or is that just letting us know?
No, that's just letting us know that we got the notice from the state of
Okay.
the hearing.
And
Okay.
that's, routine, that's what they have to
Yes.
do, right? Whenever they're talking about raising the rates?
Correct.
And they're always talking about raising the rates.
I just ask where, we only have one representative in Senator Hummisman, since we don't have, since the passing of Peter Cocott. So do we know where he stands on this?
No, we do not.
My question is, where do our representatives stand on this in terms of listening?
Sorry about that.
That was a spider, okay. Okay. See? Good under pressure, okay. No, my question was, where do our representatives stand on this issue and what input have we given them of what our concerns are about the cable rates and the service?
Do you have any direct answer to that question?
Tammy Relunas, 298 College Highway. If you are asking what Peter Cocott would have done in this
Our
situation,
representatives, yes.
I can get in contact with Diana, who was working with him very closely on his, and ask her and get back to you on this.
And Senator Hummisman. I mean, I'm interested personally, and I think on behalf of the town, to see where they stand on this. And do we have any information to bring to them about our response to rate increase or the quality of service that we're currently getting, or the lack of internet services in some of the areas, the furthermost reaches of our town?
We, the Select Board,
Okay,
have a contract with Charter.
right.
You'll need to go through that contract to see certain sections relative to services of the town and quality. As for rating, that contract doesn't address that. That goes through the telecommunication part of the state,
Okay.
and they listen to all the feedback, no pun intended, from all the consumers as well as the companies as to why.
Mm-hmm.
But we have a contract, it's a 10-year contract. In fact, we negotiated that about a year ago. But that more leans to everything except the rates.
Okay, but for me, I mean, if we're representing the interests of the town, if we don't have a better quality service, then I think that should be reflected in our position on their rate request.
And that's fine, I'm just
Okay.
saying.
I'm just asking, have we talked to our representatives about where they stand, and have we given them any guidance from our town as to how we feel about how we would address this issue?
I have
Based on
not.
our own experience, not theirs.
Formally, we haven't, no.
Okay. Should we?
Pardon?
Yes.
Well, I think, with no disrespect to Tammy, I think it should come out of the Select Board, not out of an individual of the town.
Okay.
Yes, I
asking
have
a
no
question.
problem with us directing the town administrator to contact the legislative offices to see if there's any communications going back and forth.
And what their position is.
Yeah.
And really what the rates are they gonna change and by how much? I mean, we don't know that yet. So we don't know if we're in favor or not.
Right.
So I guess, Ed, goes back to you.
All right, thank you.
You're used to that, huh? Okay,
Very.
Okay, vote to petition Mass Legislature for special legislation for Southampton Water Commission pumping station easement. So what do we need to do on this, Ed, here? We have a
Hang on a second.
attachment on it.
Ed's gonna give us an update on the,
Matt Christie sends his apologies. He intended to be here this evening, but something came up at work, so he couldn't make it. You may remember there was an article at the special town meeting that would give the Board of Selectmen to act on behalf of the water commissioners to petition the state legislature for special legislation for an easement on the Southampton, Easthampton line for the use of a pumping station. Our town council has advised the Water Commission that we probably should move forward with that sooner rather than later, and we are getting towards the end of this legislative session. So Matt asked me if I would put this on the Select Board's agenda because it is only the Select Board that can petition the legislature, not the Water Commission. And you have the draft special legislation petition in your packets that Town Council had drawn up and was a portion of that. So what the Water Commission is looking for is the Select Board to take a vote to move forward and petition the legislature to ask for that power to take the easement. It's a quicker it would be a quicker process to acquire that, any needed easements that go along with it.
John?
And this is for the building of the new pumping station
Right.
by the Big Y.
So this wording has been vetted through the attorney.
Actually, it was drafted by the attorney.
By the attorney,
yes.
okay. Yes, sir.
I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to petition the Mass legislators for special legislation for Southampton Water Commission pumping and station easement as described in the draft of Town Council.
That we have here, okay. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second it.
Okay, questions?
I look at this as normal business.
As long as legal, put it together, I'm fine. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Just to back up, looking at the letter we got for the telecommunication hearing, that's going to be in Boston on May 30th. So, and there's also a date that if you want to get some information on the proceedings, there's a date of Wednesday, May 23rd, which is tomorrow. I'm just throwing, it's a really short fuse on that, so.
Okay.
I'll get it out tomorrow.
Yeah, okay.
Ed, the next item I hear says posting of special election. That, I'm assuming,
I
It's
put
not-
that as a benchmark.
okay, so it's not needed at
We
this
didn't
point.
Know where things were going when we
Okay.
put the agenda together.
Okay, so why don't we leave it on the agenda for next time as old business, so it'll be there? The reappointment process for boards and committees, June 30th, 2018. What do you have on that, Ed?
Basically, since June 30th is coming up when some of the individuals' terms expire, some of the boards and committees have reached out to me to ask what the Board of Selectmen would like to do for a reappointment process. Is that application and resumes submitted to the board for reappointment? Does the board wish to interview along with applications and resumes, the applicants for reappointment? They're just looking for some direction so that they can let the people whose terms are expiring know and start the process so that they have committees in place in July.
I think it's just the middle of the names. I don't see a reason to go through review unless there's a problem with a committee.
Unless there's a change.
Yeah.
Yeah, anybody new, would probably want an application. But can the boards and committees do the vetting themselves and make recommendations to us? so that we don't have to go through the whole process? Seems like that would be a better way to do it. They know these people better than us.
Yeah, but you have some small boards too.
Yeah, well, if that's the case, we'd have to go directly, but thoughts? How you want to do it?
I guess the question is, do we have, in any cases of where we might have more people wanting to serve on committees that we have available spots? And in that case, I think there's a selection process involved that may
Yep.
have to occur outside of the committee itself. Is that a possibility? You don't know.
It's a possibility, yes.
So how would we get the word out that there are some openings on these boards and the people interested can submit their applications?
I think you got two pieces. Do you have people that are interested in being reappointed, number
Right.
one, and then number two, is there vacancies, and how do we get that information out there?
I mean, reappointment kind of says there's a vacancy and somebody wants to be reappointed to that. So if somebody's interested, I think we need to talk to them all.
I think there should be a paper trail. I think they can fill out the form that's on the webpage designed for the purpose of being on a committee, and then perhaps the committee can address anybody's reappointment or initial appointment and make a recommendation to us, and then we would approve the appointment. That's what I would prefer.
Sounds reasonable. Anybody else? Sound good, Ed?
Sounds good to me.
Okay. Any? Yes, Ed will. Yeah. Any other?
We will let you know.
We.
Some of the boards actually have it on the webpage when the expiration date of
yes.
individual members are, so you could actually check that too.
Okay. Any other necessary business that can't wait till the June 5th, 2018 regular select board meeting? Yes, no?
Just want to remind everybody about the Memorial Day Parade. It's next Monday, and it starts, I think, 8:30. People show up at Norris School, and the parade starts promptly at 9. Is that right?
Yes, and also the breakfast.
The breakfast at the church, right. And that starts very early, like 7:30.
7:30, I think, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Now,
I've been asked by the town clerk's office to respond to a request to put it in the Gazette, so I'll take care of doing that.
okay.
Okay.
So are we going to have floats and antique cars, or?
There might be antique cars, yes.
By the church. They're putting it
Yep.
for their
Right, for their anniversary.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well,
I didn't see it anywhere.
you want to talk about it?
Well, I don't know what to talk about. I mean, it's available. I mean,
Yeah, it's just, he's just talking about the minutes of the annual town election. That's been published, it's out there, anybody needs it.
So we have on the agenda the, about the special election, but as of right now, the recount period is 10 days, and that is up on Friday. So next time we meet, then I guess we'll address what the board wants to do or not relative to a special election.
Yes, they have till Friday at 5 p.m.
Right.
To petition. I will be in town hall till at least 1 o'clock, and then if anyone's looking to return a petition after that, they can drop them over at the police station.
Mm-hmm.
And police
that-
station's aware of that,
Yes, they are.
timestamp and everything?
Yep,
Okay.
exactly. And then, once the 10 days has expired, if the select board calls for a special election, and I've seen I've seen 64 or 65 days, so I'm going to use the 65 days. You have to give at least 65 days notice before the election.
Okay. Okay, thanks. So now we're looking at signatures, personal change forms.
No, it was just, he just said it's available.
Okay, the first one here is for Principal Assessor Martha Leamy.
Correct.
Completion of reorg following the death of previous Principal Assessor. Looks like hourly, if I'm reading this right, 31 hours a week. All the signatures are there.
I'll make a motion to approve the PCF for principal assessor.
Okay.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Next one is for Eric Larson, truck driver, heavy equipment operator, resignation from the Highway Department. Hear a motion to accept that?
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Next one's for Brendan Heath. Looks like we have two, one for the emergency. He's a part-time police officer. He was an auxiliary officer without pay. Now he's completed his FTO training and passed his final test, qualified to be a part-time officer. So it's part-time fill-in as the chief needs him. And the next one, might as well do them both together.
Yeah, one's emergency, one's part-time.
Yeah, the next one is part-time, same reasoning for it. Part-time is going to be hourly as needed. Is there a motion to accept the emergency and regular?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And Tom Futrell, transfer station attendant.
Resignation.
Yeah, resignation, so not much there. Motion to accept?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. A lot of these, Ed, huh? Next one is custodian. It's just a personnel rec form. Replace custodian for town hall, police and library. It's
This
gonna,
is what we were talking about
yeah,
earlier.
yeah, we were talking about it earlier.
And I didn't have the other line
Yeah.
items.
Yep.
That was the one that is at the town hall, so I will add the other two to it.
Okay.
But
It says,
it's 19 hours.
yeah, it says custodial,
Overall.
town hall, police and library.
Yep.
Yeah, 19 hours, so there's no benefits, so there's no extra costs there. All in favor? Or a motion, sorry?
I move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Next one's personnel rec form also, replacement, copy of posting attached. Truck driver, heavy equipment operator. 40 hours per week, has a salary scale depending on the certification, been signed by everybody. I have a motion to accept.
I move.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
There's another one. This looks like, okay, that's all on the PRFs and PCRs,
I have a
okay.
question. I thought there was another one that I read that had a resignation, and it gave the reason for the resignation of, hang on. It was a resignation from the, I think it was the truck drivers.
Didn't see it in the packet or
I
on
think
the...
it was on the back of one of those. I thought I saw it.
Yeah, I had a question about that one. I don't see it here. I just see, yes, here it is. No? What does it say?
I got
Was it Larson?
Eric Larson, I have accepted position with another place of employment beginning April 23rd.
Yeah, the other one, no, the other
The
one.
other one was a transfer station on the back. You can read. He has
Oh.
Town patrol.
town patrol. Yeah. And then the back of the form that he hand wrote.
Yeah. Did you remember reading one where it said,
This one?
no, that was written, I think, by Randall.
Are you thinking about the fire department?
You're thinking about the fire department?
Inconsistent work or something?
Yeah, that was the fire department.
Oh, that was at the
There
fire-
was some kind of notation on there, kind of rubber stamp notation,
It said something about because of the pay or. so
or
I
town
just-
politics or
It
something.
was the town politics.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
That
But
was-
Yeah.
that was already taken care of, yeah.
That's all.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that that was, I'm sure the position was already scored by PQB, right? I mean, it wasn't anything unusual.
Well, that was a resignation, though.
Yeah. Keep track of what you signed, John.
Yeah. Thanks, sir. Well, Okay, next one is licenses, permits. Looks like Joseph Labonte, 1 day all alcohol at Conant Park. It's the Charity Cornhole Tournament, July 15th. That sounds like fun. Checks received, indemnification, park permit, open to the public, no. BYOB. Okay. Ed, do you have the check? Everything's received, right?
Yes, everything is in line.
Okay.
Ed, did you update the, I saw you kind of crossed off, is that because of the updated fees? And that it's out-of-town resident?
Oh, you mean on the park
Yeah.
permit?
Yeah,
They had done that.
they did that, okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So expecting 100 people and it's private. Is there a cornhole association, tournament association out there or something?
Not that I know of, but it is getting very popular.
Yeah, it's a fun game. Okay, a motion to accept,
So moved.
second?
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Warrants, Charlie, did you sign these?
Yeah, I signed PD 18-46 for $43,589.78. And P 18-46 for $271,379.83. That's it.
Okay. Okay, personal bylaw rules and regulations for signature. Do we all need to sign it, Ed?
You want everybody in this room?
Okay, so, yeah.
This is the one that you approved at your last meeting.
Mhm.
Yep.
We didn't have a signature page for it.
Even though I wasn't here, I sign it.
That's the license for the Conant Park. So what about the personnel plan, bylaw, and rules and regulations?
This is what was approved at the last meeting, but
Right.
we didn't have a signature page for it,
Oh,
so
it's
it's
right
just for
there? Okay.
signatures, yeah.
On its
Okay.
way.
No problem. While we're doing that, minutes to approve, there's none.
Next one.
That's it. Simple night.
Calendar and announcements. Select Board meeting June 5th and June 9th.
19th.
19th, sorry. Special joint meeting, May 24th, which is Thursday, 6 o'clock, Public Safety and Select Board. Select Board meetings for July to be determined. Two of these? One, two. There you go. Okay, open time for the public. Anybody? Nobody? So I don't have to read this large portion?
I'll read it. Enjoy
No,
yourself.
that's okay. Thank you. Okay. Anything else before we go into executive session?
Do we have a reason to go into executive session?
We do. I shall read it if there's nothing else.
Okay.
We got one here. So nothing else? Okay. So Select Board's going to go into executive session under Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Number 3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body and the chair so declares. So we're going to not come back into open session once we get out of executive session. So we need a vote to
I
go.
make a motion to move into executive session.
I'll second it.
Roll call, please.
Roden, aye.
Konecki, aye.
Martin, aye.
Labrie abstains.
Francine Tishman, aye.
Okay.
I'm gonna be the quarterback.
Okay, we're going to executive session and not coming back out. Gonna take a 5-minute break?